Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. It's Blended Learning, Sharing Approaches Across the Regions. I'm Susan Webb. I'm the Coordinator of Language Curriculum Training Services with the Centre for Education and Training in Mississauga in Southern Ontario. And I'm very happy to welcome you all this afternoon to this great session that we're going to have. We have a panel of 4 presenters from across the country with us this afternoon, who will be sharing their blended learning courses and telling us of their experiences and sharing their expertise in this area. We will have Jen Artin joining us from the Thames Valley District School Board in London, and Gilara Keshevars from Sheridan College in Oakville, which is just right next door to Mississauga. And Catherine Porter is joining us from Toronto, from the Toronto District School Board. And finally, Vesna Radivojevic, who is joining us all the way from British Columbia from Vancouver Community College. So welcome to all of you, and thanks for joining us, and also thanks participants. Now, just a few words about housekeeping before we get on to the main show. Any questions and comments you have can go into the chat box, as they usually do. I'll be sending you around a feedback survey very shortly after the session wraps up in order to get your feedback on the session. And I will send out your PD certificates toward the end of this week. Now, we're going to start with a quick icebreaker poll to find out about your own blended learning experience. So I'll put the poll up in a second. And you'll choose from A, I'm unfamiliar with it, but I'm hoping to learn more during this session. B, I already know a bit about it, but I haven't used it before. C, I've used it before, but not on a regular basis. Or D, I use it regularly, and I'm hoping to be inspired with new ideas during this session. So you can click A, B, or C along the bottom of the screen, and we'll just take the results in a second. Okay, I think just about everybody has taken the poll. If anyone else wishes to take it, please do, and then I'll publish those results. Okay, I think we have everyone. So it seems that 3 of you are unfamiliar with it. 2 already know a little bit about it, but they haven't used it before. Perhaps after the session you will, hopefully. And then 3 of you use it regularly, and you're hoping to be inspired with new ideas during the session, which you undoubtedly will. Now, a few quick slides just to outline what blended learning is for those of you who are unfamiliar. So it's an education program. It can be formal or informal, which combines online digital media with traditional classroom methods. It does require the physical presence of both teacher and student, and there is some element of student control over the time, place, path, or pace. Finally, it is face-to-face classroom practices combined with computer-mediated activities regarding content and delivery. And just a few more points now, some elements of blended learning. So it does involve a learning management system, or what's shortened to the acronym LMS, such as Moodle. That's one of the common ones. It also involves online learning activities and internet navigation skills. And then face-to-face classroom and from home settings are also happening during blended learning. It involves learner collaboration and also learner independence and autonomy. The content is delivered in different modalities, so therefore it can fit to the needs of learners with different learning styles. The delivery mode has a direct and clear link to how we communicate in today's workplace. And finally, learners can hone their writing skills. And now I would like to introduce Jen Artin from Thames Valley District School Board, who, as I said, is joining us from London. She's a continuing education ESL instructor at TVDSB, as mentioned. She's also a level 2 Google certified educator and the TESOL Ontario webinar manager, as well as the TESOL London communications chair. Further, she is a Master's of Education student at UOIT. She's been teaching ESL since 1998, and she has taught SLT, or specialized language training, for small business since 2009, And Jen started using blended learning with Learn-i2 to Teach and EduLink in 2013. So I'll hand it over now to you, Jen, and welcome.
Great, thanks. Do I also have presenter status?
Okay, there we go.
Okay, wonderful. I'm just going to upload my files. Just bear with me for 1 second. I hope everyone's doing all right tonight. It's really hot here in London, like 30 degrees. Okay, it's just coming open right now. I was trying to be able to share my screen top. Unfortunately, for some reason, the Java wouldn't accept it. It was working fine last night. So I'm just going to go straight to my presentation here. Just opening up my web camera so everyone can see. I won't stay on long. I just wanted to say hi, just to give you a face to put to the name. So I am going to talk to you a little bit about my blended learning experience, making it quick, but there's quite a lot of information that I could share. So it's been a fantastic journey. Like it was mentioned, I have been doing it since 2013. I was lucky to have been selected to do one of the first Learn-i2 to Teach training sessions, and I started blogging my experience back in 2013. So as you know, blended learning is a combination of the face-to-face online element. My students I have for 4 days a week in class, 1 day a week, they are blended, so they're doing the work online. So I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the lessons that I've learned with blended learning, some of the platforms I've used, and what I'm doing right now, which is I'm using Google Classroom in specialized language training. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how blended learning, and in particular how Google Classroom really meshes well together and really fits in, particularly with promoting the 21st century skills, which for me are quite important, particularly when we're talking about adult ESL and in blended learning. So my experience, real briefly, June 2013. Has it been 4 years? It feels like much, much longer. I did my first blended learning class. I was the first one ever at Thames Valley. We made some predictions prior to the actual blended learning class. My colleague and I were working on it, and we thought ahead what could go wrong, what are the possible problems, or what are the issues that some of our students could have. So we came up with these issues. Information overload. As teachers, we might try to get too much information to the students, given, of course, that we have access to the internet and the web and all the information that's there. It could be overwhelming. When I first started using blended learning, I was using a platform called Desire to Learn. That's D2L. The platform itself, like I said, it was the first time we were using it. So I was thinking, well, this could be problematic. The students are going to have to learn the tool before they actually use the tool. So that was a problem, we thought. And blended learning. There is some expectation of learner autonomy, and that learners will do the blended learning work on their own. So as much as we wanted that to happen, you know, we know our students. So when they have a day off, or when they're not in school, they don't always come to class the next day having done the blended component. You might have heard of a flipped classroom. Well, a flipped classroom has some of the preparation done ahead of time at home, and then when they come to the classroom, they're prepared to show what they know. So that's what we predicted might be an issue. And of course, digital literacy skills. All of these were problems. Every single one of them. Too much information. Digital literacy skills with our students really turned out to be an issue. Even amongst the class that we had, which was a group of about 12, the range of ability in computer skills was night and day. We had some students that were still two-finger typers and some students that could set up their own web page. So the range was quite vast. Okay, so some of the biggest challenges we identified: knowledge, skills, and abilities. They need support in learning how to use the platform before the actual class started. And they need to know what their expectations are. So what exactly are they expected to know in that classroom? So that was a big thing that I learned for sure. And there has to be some kind of plan to develop the digital skills needed for blended learning, particularly with our audience. So if we're looking at developing keyboarding skills or navigation skills, we need to be able to build that into the beginning components of the blended learning. And of course, access. Computer access, having computers at home, and having Wi-Fi is a big issue as well. I had one student in that blended learning class that thought she could do the whole class on her phone. No. Okay, so I've talked a bit about the 21st century skills. I'm going to go over these quickly before I show you what Google Classroom is all about. Basically, what I believe is that it doesn't matter how much of the class is blended, whether it's a 75% in class, face-to-face, 25% at home. It's critical to embed the 21st century skills that our learners need to be successful in the workplace. Has anyone heard of the 4 C's of 21st century skills? They all start with C. Just let me know in the chat box if you've heard of them before. No? Still typing? What are the 4 C's of 21st century skills? I'll show you. Normally, if I was a class, I would wait until I got answers, but I'm aware of the time that I have to present today, so I do want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to present and ask questions. Communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. So these were identified as key skills that students, that people need to be successful in the workplace today. Okay, so as I said, I've started using Desire to Learn. I've used Moodle, and I've used Google Classroom. It was mentioned that these are considered learning management systems, and that's true for Moodle and Desire to Learn. Google Classroom is not considered a learning management system. It's different in one particular way, and I'll talk about that in a moment. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. I will give access to the slides so you can read through this later on. Because I've used all 3, I've found that all 3 of them have pros and cons. I definitely like Desire to Learn, and I definitely like Moodle, but for my learners, Google Classroom is actually a better fit, and I'll show you why in just a moment. English levels that I'm using, Catherine's asking about, it's ranged. I've had as low as level 3, and I've had as high as level 8. And my current course is 5+. So I'm going to take you on a quick journey through Google Classroom. So if you have a Google account, you have access to your own classroom. Now, that wasn't the case prior to March of this year. Google Classroom it's free. If you have a Google account, you can have a Google Classroom. And the Google Classroom just became an open access resource in March of this year. So you have to go through a request process, and you can get your own Google Classroom. And it's really quite amazing. I've got 2 non-school board Google Classrooms already set up. But before March of this year, you could only have a Google Classroom if you were part of a school board or college. No fee, it's open access, it's free. Okay, so as I mentioned, the learners in my classroom use Google plus a combination of what's called G Suite tools. They're in my classroom 4 days a week. 1 day a week is online, access to a computer lab at least 3 times a week. We continue to do work in Google Classroom during the week. So Google Classroom looks like this. I'll zoom in a little bit here. Okay. The layout is really simple. If you're used to the Moodle platform, Google Classroom can seem a little bit raw. There's not a lot to it, but it's really just set up in Stream, Students, and About, and it's really quite simple. It all ranges chronologically. Let me just add that up here. Right. The top box will show assignments that are due, that are coming up. Topics can be arranged in topics along the topic categories along the left-hand side. You can add video links, and I'll show you a little bit about how it the grading process as well. Okay. To add students to the account, it's just simply a matter of going into the box that says invite students, and you'll notice there's also a class code. This code will not work with you because you're not part of the school board, but I will give you a code that does work. Just a moment. Okay. This is the non-school board account that I have. This Google code will give you access to my training and professional development educational technology Google Classroom. So you might want to copy that down, because then you can just Google Classroom. It will ask you for a code to enter a class, and then you can join my class using this code. I will come back to this slide if anyone, so I can, it's I4VTAE. Susan, just keep an eye on my time for me. If I'm running over, just let me know in the chat box, and I'll make sure to wrap it up. I'll just want to make sure everyone gets enough time to talk about it. No problem. Welcome. Okay. So here's your About section in Google Classroom. Right. And this is just, you can change the images, you can change the graphics to whatever you need or whatever is suitable or applicable for your group. You can add information about where to find yourself. I've put my computer lab number, my room number here. There's access to a calendar, which is useful. So the calendar opens up in Google Classroom. It looks a little bit like this, and it just tells you which assignments are coming due. And that's one way to look at it. But also, like I said, Google Classroom is connected to all the Google apps that exist. And there's quite a few. In Google Classroom, I'm just gonna, right. So Google Calendar, Galara, your mic is coming on, sorry. All right, so this is what the calendar looks like. And you can see this connects, no worries, this connects to all the trips, all the assignments that you have coming due. So your students have access to this as well. And in addition, you can connect your the student calendars with your calendar, so students can track their attendance and whenever they're absent directly in the calendar. So no need for paper calendars anymore. If a student's not going to show up, they just go ahead and put that in their calendar. So kind of like this. Here's an example of some of my students. I've just got their last names blocked out on the side. So Batul, she's shown as blue. No, Cheng, oh, Cheng's easier. He's orange. So he wrote on his calendar that he would be in Toronto, so he's going to be absent all day on May 1st. So that's one way that I have my students keep track of their assignments and their attendance in the classroom. Right. I use Google Forms to connect with Google Classroom as well. Google Forms can be accessed from your 9-Dot, which I would show you if my share screen was working. But Google Forms is just a way to easily create, if you look into it, there are quiz templates, there's exit ticket templates, there's assessment templates, course evaluations, and worksheet templates already created for you. So it's just a matter of creating what you need. And in this case, you can see some examples of what I have here, and then just importing it, and then just importing it into your Google Classroom. So I had my students complete a KWL chart, which is know, want to know, and learned about a particular module or topic. There's also student portfolio evaluations that we created, and course evaluations, needs assessments. I wouldn't do needs assessments any other way other than on a Google form connected to my Google Classroom. It's so much easier to keep track of. Okay, so let me just, So this is what a needs assessment looks like. Again, you would create the form in Google Forms and connect it to your Google Classroom, and the students just answer it directly from Google Classroom, and it will compose all the results for you. Yeah, so it's all there. And if you want to look at the responses individually and find out what one student thought, you can just click on where it says responses, and it gives you the option to see what each student chose. So yeah, I think that that's a really good tool to use. And here's part of my needs assessment here. Yeah, this is a student's answer. What's your personal philosophy? Tomorrow never dies. Heroes or role models. Like I said, connected to Google Classroom, and it really is a good fit for my learners. Student assessment tasks. Right? Creating an assessment task is also really simple in Google Classroom because there's not a whole lot there. It's a very simple layout. So the teacher just goes into your plus symbol. You have options to create a question, create an assignment, or create an announcement. You can create the assignment by just clicking on that clipboard. Right? So it gives you the option to name the assignment, select a due date, select a topic, and then you have these options here. You can attach a document from your computer file, attach it directly from your Google Drive, attach a video, or put a link. And then you just create the assignment from that, and the assignment automatically populates into your classroom. All right, so for example, I want to attach it from my Google Classroom. I'm just going to click on it. And I make sure, I usually choose make a copy for each student. So that one copy that the teacher makes becomes the template, and then the students go in and they open the assignment, and then every student gets a copy of the assignment so they can then turn it in as their own, with their own name. I'm going to show you a little bit about what that looks like. So here's my page, and I want to show you what the assessment looks like. So I open up my assessments, and I can see all my students here that have turned it in. It's marked out of 40. I can adjust the marks at the top, right? And it says that all these have been returned. So I've got, hundreds of marks. How does it organize it? Well, there's nothing on the slide. Okay, there it is. I was scared for a second. In the settings wheel, let me just slide that over here. At the top of your Google Classroom in the assignment, you have the option to copy all grades to Google Sheets, which is like Excel, or download, excuse me, all grades as a CSV, which is an Excel-like file extension. So I'll show you what that looks like here. Right? So all your grades automatically already formatted into an Excel-like spreadsheet. All the student names are here. all the grades, the dates, the assignments already laid out for you. Sometimes you choose to not assign something to all students, maybe because of a level, it might be too high for some. You can choose which students do which assignments. So it's really quite flexible in that way. And then after you've got all the marks, you can go ahead and, color coordinate that all you want. If I'm going too quickly, just stop, ask questions. Okay. So this is just what it looks like to make an assignment, right? This is asking a question. The question can just be like a little quiz or something you want students to all answer. There's also a discussion format. So I asked this question here. Give me some ideas. I created a due date. Students can reply to each other. So it creates like a discussion forum. And then I click on ask. And really quickly, I'm going to show you a little bit about what it means to access the G Suite. Google Classroom, like I said, is not an LMS. It is something a little bit different. So you really have to connect the apps that are appropriate to your students from the G Suite themselves. When you're logged into Google, if you've got a Google account, you'll notice this symbol at the top. It's called the 9 dot or the waffle. So in here are all your apps, and there's more too at the bottom. Okay. So one of the apps that I use most commonly in Google Classroom is Google Forms, Google Calendars, and Google Docs. And sometimes we have students collaborating together to work together on a particular assignment. So for example, this assignment, well, this is just an easy one. I had my students try to say, well, this is their assignment was about Canadian regions, and they needed to, decide which region were they interested in presenting. So they needed to choose two. So if this were the document that the students were working on together, and let's say this was, for example, a report, and I wanted to see which students had written what. It's quite easily done. There's a button that you can press to see revision history. So the revision history opens up, and you can see when all the edits were made and who made them. So that's also a useful tool. And Susan, like I said, keep me apprised of the time. If I've got only a couple minutes, I'll have to kind of get through this really quickly. All your files, all your assessments, all your resources are saved in a default drive called Classroom. And you can see this is what mine looks like for small business 2017. It's kind of a lot. You have the option to right-click on the file and color coordinate it, so you can identify which tasks were reading tasks. Okay, all right, I got about 2 minutes. Which tasks are writing tasks, and all of that. So you can definitely color coordinate your tasks quite easily. So feedback, I'll just show you this really quickly. If you're used to using Google Docs, you'll recognize this. Student has submitted this assessment, and you want to be able to mark it and hand it back to her. You just select the text, give them feedback just on the side, and they get those suggestions, and then you can just copy that for their folders. You can kind of see that here as well. These students are working on a small business project. I open up revision history, and I can see when Khalid or when Sammy, when they worked on certain aspects of their business. This is Google Slides, and as well here. Comments can go on the side. So in summary, like I said, the 21st century skills of collaboration, creativity, communication, critical thinking All of these are tools that are available in the Google Classroom that I use for part of my blended learning curriculum. Collaboration, Google Docs, Google Slides, even Calendar. I use Calendar to collaborate things like my final speaking assessments. So I set up the calendar appointment. The students then choose appointment slots to meet with me. So all of these can be used and found in Google Classroom in some way. Google Classroom provides affordances that enable collaboration. Like I said, docs, slides, easily shared, easily editable, and it's all one document they're working on together at the same time. Student Drive can be shared with Teacher Drive. No more worrying about a thumb drive that gets lost. It's all there. Critical thinking, things to, I give my students problems to solve, and then I usually step back. I use something called project-based learning. You might have seen some examples in here. Just creativity. I'm going to go quickly through this. Sorry. Here's an example of using the Draw tool in Google Draw to add a signature to a document. And that's what one of my students figured out on his own. So you added your signature to a file and then just click communication. Here's an example of the binder review appointment slots that I'm able to set up in Google Classroom. Students pick the binder review time they want, and that's it. So summary, Google Classroom with Google Suite is now freely available. It's open access resource. Anyone can get a Google Classroom. I'm inviting you to go ahead and join my professional development Google Classroom, where my slides for this presentation tonight are available, plus other professional development materials I've created over the past 3 or 4 months. So I hope that you join me there. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take some questions. Any questions? It was a bit of a whirlwind tour. Sorry. Google Classroom there's a lot to it, but it's, like I said, it's free. It's so simple that you could have a Google Classroom set up tomorrow if you wanted. It's just, and then you can start working with students one-on-one. You can enroll 10 students and give 10 different assessments depending on, their levels. So yeah, it's great.
Jen, thank you so much. That has been fabulously packed whirlwind tour. You've given us so much valuable information. It's incredible. I hope everybody's been able to take all of that in. Jen has been using this courseware for a really long time, and she's really maximized all the affordances, as you see. So Jen, thank you so much for joining us for this, this part of the session.
No problem. Thank you.